How's it going, everybody? How's it going, everybody there on Patreon? So this is going to be our Flip Mastery video. Previously, I wanted to make this as a stream, but it turns out that the stream is actually still in beta form. I kind of I got really excited when I saw that Patreon was releasing the streaming, and they basically made a post saying that they released streaming, but it's actually still in the beta stage. It's not like an official thing yet, so I am going to go ahead and make this in video form until then. So in this video, I wanted to go through a bunch of the questions that people have been having about Flip Mastery, because as you probably saw on the page, I was asking people to reach out when you have any kind of issues or questions. So I definitely want to address questions that people have and help to clear up some of the things they have as far as questions for Flip Mastery. Because I do want you guys to be able to make the most money possible by using the guides, and I also want you to be able to not have to have like some irritating issues that you're trying to deal with and you just need some assistance with. So after this video, you guys can also feel free to send me more messages, and I'll just continue making the Flip Mastery update videos addressing people's questions. I have no problem doing that. So please reach out and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and go through some questions that people have. One of the first questions that people have is for the Flip Mastery lists is, are all the lists the same? Are there multiple lists? Why don't we have a Discord for Flip Mastery? So the main thing right there, and you kind of answer this question yourself, is that there are multiple lists that get sent out. That is because I don't want everybody flipping the exact same item, because then it's just going to slow items down really, really bad. There are some items that get sent to everybody. And then what those items that get sent to everybody are usually items that are not really going to be affected by a bunch of people flipping them. And then I just I do research to find out which items are not going to really be affected by that. And one of the most recent examples of that, by the way, is going to be the keys. So we'll go ahead and jump into this real quick here. So we see keys. We got the Ascension keys right here. So these are something that have been included on all the Flip Mastery lists recently. And then, just like I said, by the way, that's the reason why we don't have a Discord. For the Flip Mastery is just because if everybody shares all their items and everything like that, it's just going to slow them all down. So it's not really beneficial at that point. But if you guys have any other questions, you guys can feel free to ask. Also, in this example, I loaded up my pouch with 497.5 million. It's honestly just what I had left over in this pouch, and I was like, you know what, that sounds like a realistic number, because this number is probably something realistic to what people would be flipping with. But if you have less money than this or more money than this, I'm definitely going to get into that too, because that is related to some people's questions. Let's go and take a look at this first, the Keystone Tertius. So Keystone Tertius is one of our examples from the list there. We can see right here that Keystone Tertius is 109,697. Now the first thing I want to actually hit is I want to answer somebody else's question. I'm actually going to be able to use Keystone Tertius here for a great example. One of the most common questions I get, and I got this a few different times, is how do I know when there's an item that I can buy overnight, or I can hold on to for a few days, or maybe say I'm going on a vacation or a trip, and I want to be able to buy some of these items while I'm gone. How do I identify an item that I can be able to hold for a little bit longer than like an immediate flip? So there's a couple ways to figure that out. Number one way is just by having experience with that item. Like you can kind of tell if it's going to go down or up or whatever. Well, you're not really worried about it going up, obviously. You're worried about it going down. So let's go into the easiest way to figure this out. So if we go right here, the Keystone Tertius on my wiki page here. We see Ascension Keystone Tertius has a buy limit of 100, as shown on the buy limits on the list that you guys receive. So what that means, by the way, if anybody's confused about buy limits, let me just go ahead and clear that up real quick, because one person did have a question about this. What that means is that's how many you can buy in a 4-hour period. So when you buy your very first item out of that 100, then your 4-hour countdown starts. It's 4 hours from the time you make your first successful buy. So if you guys are price testing like you should be, then when you do your price test, if you actually kind of mark it down on a notepad, or mark it down in like a spreadsheet or somewhere, you guys can see when your first purchase was. That way you guys know when you're going to be able to buy the next 100. So there's the quick answer for that one right there. Let's go into this chart right here. And also, when you guys see your items in your Flip Mastery list, I do actually encourage you to come check out the chart, just to briefly get a little bit of history behind the item. So if we look at this overall graph right here, we can see the Keystone Tertiuses have been, in the last 6 months, they've been, 130, 140, 130, 140, whatever. They've gone all the way down to like this. They've actually hit down to the 90s, and they're kind of rising back up, and they're back at 109. So if you were interested in considering maybe holding on to it for a couple days or something, you can kind of look and see what they've been like for the last 1 month. As you can see right here, it's been like an up and down roller coaster, and they've been like right now the point is like this. So if you were to get this item on the list right now today, you can see that it's kind of like the upper end of the roller coaster, which means that you do run a little bit of risk of it dropping back down. How much would it possibly go down to? Well, according to this right here, it's about 95,000. So you have a risk of losing about 20,000 each if you were to hold this, overnight or whatever. You should also note though that this rise right here took from 23 June to 29 June, which means that your actual overnight risk is actually pretty low on this item. So you can look right here and you can just kind of tell which direction this is going in. Now let's say you received the item and it was on your list and it was like kind of like maybe it was right here. Maybe it was right here. Then you can tell that this, judging by the roller coaster action here, it's speculated to go up more and before it was to rise down, before it was to go down. So you can tell if you got it right here that it'd be a great thing to buy overnight. That you run a very low risk on that. Something else with these two is you can check up here and you can look at the like the alchemy. If it says right here that the alchemy, now let's use another example actually. Let's use a black dragon hide shield. So if we look at a black dragon hide shield, this is going to be a great example for this one here. See how we have a high alchemy of 10,783 coins, and let's say they're 94.84. The chances of you losing money by buying this item overnight, as an overnight flip, the chances of you losing money is going to be extremely slim, based on the fact that the high alch is up here. Items are going to be kept up by their high alch price, guys. So that's kind of the reason why stuff like rune bars, runes 2Hs, Dragonhide itself is not lower, is because the fact the high alch price is up here. So we can kind of tell this item is a very low risk. If items that you are flipping are below their high alch price, then they're extremely low risk, and those are typically something that you can buy overnight. That's kind of like a rule of thumb: is if the alch price is higher, then you have like a safety net. And if anything, if you were to lose any money, because you guys have to remember that flipping is a risk, it's just a very small risk. But if you were to lose any money there, it's going to be very minimal. That's what we can tell by that. All right, guys. So let's go back over to the Keystone Tertius real quick. Now the next thing I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna perform a price check. So I get a lot of people that ask me still about price checks, and I've shown these a few times, and I definitely show this in the Flip for Wealth series on YouTube, which, by the way, please go watch the Flip for Wealth series on YouTube if you've not watched it before, because it will help people who need some extra learning for flipping. But we can go here and we can do a very simple price check. So I'll go ahead and buy up this. So we're going to go buy one. And that's all you got to do. You just have to offer a lot higher. If this item does not buy right away, for just FYI, if this item does not instantly buy, like this does not fill up right away, then that means you have to offer more. So some items you might have to pay way above. So just be aware of that. You're always going to get money back though, based upon how much you overpaid. So don't worry, you're not actually going to be paying how much you offered unless the price is actually that price. So right here we've got 108,999. So with 108,999, then you keep that in mind. So when I show you guys a margin on a list, when you guys see a margin on a list, you're going to have two prices. You're going to have the buy price on the left. You're going to have the sell price on the right. So the sell price on the right is the price right here. So this 108,999. That's this keystone right here. If you were to instantly buy it, that becomes your new sell price. What that means is when you go to sell this item for a flip, you're going to be selling it for this price you show right here. And the way that works is simply because when you go instant buy this, you're buying it from the lowest seller, which means that in order for you to make a sale, you have to beat that person. So you now know that person has their stuff at 108,999. You just know you have to go below that. Now, let me finish this price check, and then I'll actually answer somebody else's question. So in order to finish the price check, by the way, you just take your Tertius key, and you just put it in there for super low. Now, don't worry, it's not going to sell for that price, most likely. Well, actually, in nearly all circumstances, it's not going to sell for this price because it's going to be higher than that. So you go like this, and you will get amount equal to the highest buyer. So the highest buyer is right here at 105,002. We know that because in order for them to have successfully bought this item from you, they have to be the highest paying person. This means that when you go in here and try to flip, then that means you are going to want to be the highest paying person, obviously, so you're going to want to beat this person. So that means that now you have your total range. That means that on the left we have 105,002, and then on the right number we have 108,999. Which means that we have roughly 4,000 profit on this Tertius key, which is nothing too shabby because the fact you can buy 100 of them, which means that you can take your 4,000 margin you just found, and then 100 times that amount is 400,000 gold, which means that when you complete your flip on this item, then you will make 400,000 gold. Okay, so next thing, guys, before I get into some more information, I want to answer another question. So another question was, oh, and actually, to be honest with you, this was not a question. This was not a question. It's just something that I've found slightly disturbing. It's not, and it's nothing. It's nothing against you guys that have been doing this, but I'm just gonna let you know that this is not the way to do it, and please don't do this. What they've been doing is like this. So let's say they found that Tertius key at 105,002. So we look at the Tertius key. They price checked and found Tertius key at 105,002. So 105,003 is plenty of money to be able to buy this item because the highest buyer was 105,002. We know that at 105,003 we are now confirmed to be the highest paying person in the entire Grand Exchange for this item. We are the highest paying person on the planet at this time for the Keystone Tertius. Woo, we feel special. So what that means is that you don't need to do this. You don't need to go 105,501 or like 505, 502 or whatever. So what they're doing is they're adding like a whole bunch of extra money because they want to try to like be way above the other person to have a better chance of buying the item. What I can guarantee you guys, and this is 100% true, that 105,502 and 105,503, neither one of those numbers have any difference in the chance of them buying the item. You know why? Because they're both the highest offer in the Grand Exchange. You only have to be the highest offer in the Grand Exchange, which means that if you found the price to be 105,002 when you price checked, you only have to raise it by 1. So doing this helps to prevent destroying the margin. Because if you have somebody, now remember our prices were 105,002 to 108,999. And you guys can write that down while you're watching this video for reference if you need to. And I would also encourage you to take any small notes if you want to, especially if some of these questions actually were questions made by you. If you were to do something like, okay, 105,002 is the thing, and I want to buy this thing really fast, so I'm going to pay 108,000. I'm going to pay 108,000. If you do that, then your new margin that you've created for Keystone Tertius is now 108,000 to 108,999. It could be even worse if you decide to sell them at this price. So you're only making 500 each. You can actually successfully kill an item's margin by doing this. Now, obviously, when your buy limit is over with, you will no longer be blocking that item up. But a lot of the reason why the margins kind of die on some things over time is because of the fact that people just overcut and undercut by way more than they need to. You only have to do 1 GP. 1 GP, guys. That's it. That's it. Please do not do more than 1 GP. It does not help you. It actually hurts you literally because you're making less money. All right, guys. So next thing here, let me go ahead and buy this Keystone Tertius, and I'm going to go ahead and use this as an example again. Tertius is my new favorite example for today. So if we have Keystone Tertius and look at that. Look, 109,000. So the buy actually went up by 1 GP. Look at that. Look at that. So what that means, by the way, is that person that was at 108,999 is actually likely just sold out. So if we go right here, and we're going to be a new person at 108,999, because remember, like I just said, what I just said about it is that that you only have to beat it by 1. So in our new sell price being 109. Oh wait. Yeah. Our new price check being 109. We know we can beat that by 1 GP. So I'll go ahead and put this in there right there, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in. Now, here is another very, very common question that I get, and people really want some assistance with this. People say, how do I avoid the undercutters and the overcutters? Sometimes I have a hard time buying a full limit of items, or I have a hard time selling all the items I bought. because people are, blocking my sales and stuff like that. Okay, so the first thing I have to say about that is that is kind of part of flipping. That is actually just kind of part of flipping. Flipping is not instant money. Flipping does require a little bit of work, and there are ways around it, to kind of prevent that work, or not really prevent it, but just kind of like reduce that work. As you guys just saw, the price that I just bought this one for was 1 GP higher, which means I bought it from a different person most likely. With that being said, if you are very patient with your sells or very patient with your buys, then chances are the other people are going to be, done with their sale, done with their buy, and then your items are actually going to start selling or buying. That does happen quite often, so that's the reason why I do encourage people to be very patient. That's the reason why I put those time limits on the Flip Mastery list, like wait 15 to 20 minutes or wait 30 to 40 minutes if it's a slow item, stuff like that. So with that being said, be very patient, and that is your first strategy to avoid that, is to be patient. Now let's say you come back after a while and your Keystone Tertiuses that you've had in here for the correct price are just not sold, and you're like, man, it's been like a really long time. I went to the gym, I had a shake, I watched some videos, and now it's still not sold. What's going on? It's been like an hour. So what you can do now is you can go back in and you can check. So you don't take out your original item. I mean, you can, but you don't have to. So without taking my original item out, I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna buy a new Keystone Tertius. Now I'm gonna essentially price check, right? So I'm gonna price check. Boom! Look at that! Look at that! So what happened, guys, is I just bought my own Keystone Tertius. So if I bought my own Keystone Tertius, what that means is, see, 108.99. I'll go and take this one out. And then we look over here. There's my cash I just gave myself, 108.99. If that happens right there, if you buy something from yourself, then that means that you were still the lowest seller and you still had the correct price. Now the only thing is, though, is what that inevitably means is that you just didn't wait long enough. So that means that either like the demand for the item was like slowed way down and you just needed to wait a little bit longer. Or, it essentially was you just need to wait a little bit longer. So, and then what you can do, though, is you can have like a little bit of peace of mind and being like, okay, hey, I know I have the right sell price now, so that makes me feel better because now I know it's just a waiting game. So you can just like let those sit and then, just come back later. In a lot of examples, by the way, during your flips, you can actually just go ahead and leave these things for like the rest of the night, and that's totally fine. All right, guys. The only other way to really like avoid that. So let's say that you are trying to buy the Keystone Tertiuses for yourself. There's a buy limit of 100. Let's say after like 3 hours of waiting, which you should never get into that situation because, like I said, only wait anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes for like a fast item and 30 to 40 minutes for a slower item. Keystone Tertiuses would be considered like a slower item because they have a lower volume in the game. If you guys want to hear more about testing the volume of an item, then please watch the Flip for Wealth series because I do have an entire video on checking the overall volume of an item, so you can go by that. The Ascension Keystone Tertius being a lower volume item, we're going to be aiming more toward the 30 or 40. So every time you get a buy or a sale on a Keystone Tertius or the other Keystones, and this is the same example for any other lower volume item, you're going to want to start over your 30 to 40 minute clock. So if it's been like 30 minutes and you've gotten one buy, well, time to restart the clock there, and stuff like that. So it's one of those things where you only really have an issue if you do not have a buy or sale within that 30 or 40 window. So if you do not have one and you decide to go price check, and this time when you price check, you do not buy your own Keystone Tertius or whatever other item. Obviously Keystone Tertius is our example here, but let's say you don't buy your own item. You buy somebody else's item. Let's say you go in there and you buy it and you get 108,500. You're like, oh, somebody else is competing with me. So you've got two options here, guys. You got two options. You've got number one, where you can use our first strategy that I suggested, and that's being very patient. You can just wait and see if the other person sells out. And an example, how long you wait really depends on the item. But if you decide you're going to wait, then wait a little bit. But when you come back and you're like, okay, so let's say that you either A, you don't want to wait, or B, you did wait and you came back and found the same problem. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take out your Keystone Tertius that did not sell for the price that, you know, obviously it's not going to sell for this if somebody's undercutting you now. And you're going to throw it in here, and now you're just going to basically undercut them by 1. You can do 2 things here, by the way. You can undercut them by 1, or you can also match their price. Now, both of them have a good strategy, and look at that, by the way. The instant buy actually, oh, what? No, I'm typoed. Typo. Rest in peace, money. There's 4,000 gold down the drain. You've got the 2 different options there. So if you were to match their price, there's some benefits to that. The main benefit to that, by the way, is the fact that they're not going to know you're undercutting them now. They're not going to know that you are trying to beat their price. And you will start making some sales because you now have the same price as them, and you're not really actually being blocked by them. You're just sharing the same sell price. That's another reason why, by the way, if you guys have like the money making methods, and you know we have like some items that we're selling the Grand Exchange, and I always suggest people like keep like a similar sell price and everything, and not undercut each other. That's because if everybody shares the same sell price, then I mean, well, you're all gonna make sales. So that's another reason why there too. That's another reason why it's not good to undercut people. You know, obviously when I say don't undercut people, because it doesn't really help you anything. It might make your sales a slight bit faster, but that's really it. Now the other option is to go ahead and undercut them by the 1 GP. Now, if you do undercut them by the 1 GP, then you've got the upper hand now. You've got the fast sale now. Because you know they're going to sell, you know they're going to sell faster because you're not sharing the limit, or you're not sharing the sale with them. Here is the issue, though. Here's the issue with that. If you have somebody who is competing with you, like they're price checking their items, let's say that the other person is also a very savvy flipper and is also price checking his sales. What that means is that they're going to notice that you undercut them, and when they notice you undercut them, they're just going to undercut you right back. Which is what a lot of people in the Flip Mastery and end up running into, is the fact that they get into this undercut battle, and then they end up only selling like 5 to 10 items each time. So if you guys want to fully avoid that situation, all you got to do is just match the other person's sale instead of undercutting them. So I do encourage you to try both of those strategies to try to make your stuff go a little bit quicker. By the way, guys, you can use that in terms of buying or selling. That's not really only like a selling strategy. That's also a buying strategy. So you can feel free to use it in both those situations. Okay, guys, so the next thing, someone had a very recent question, and that was the person was asking, why is it that sometimes there are smaller items or low buy limit items or items on the flip list that might have worse margins than some other items? Like, why would I bother to put items on there that have like a 100,000 profit during the flip when there's other items on the list that have like 1 million profit during the flip or something like that? Or why aren't all the items on the list being stuff that's like only going to make a ton of money? So the answer to that is a couple different answers. Number one, I go for a little bit of variety. I want to make sure that the lists have variety on them, so that people can try out a bunch of different types of items. And then that way, because I always just suggest that people that are in the Flip Mastery actually slowly work on their skills as flipping, because I want you guys to get better at flipping. I want you guys to improve at it and, you know, be able to make more money on your own. And so I do try to have like a big variety of things. That way you guys can, like, you know, practice up with that. Also, people have different amounts of banks. Not everybody's going to be able to flip the bigger items. Not everybody's going to be able to flip the items that cost a whole bunch of money to have to buy a total buy limit. And I'm actually getting to that in just a second here too, a little bit, some more information too. And so some items are going to have, some items on the list are going to have a lower margin than some of the other ones. And that's simply because it's geared toward being able to help everybody, regardless of how much money you have on the Patreon. All right, guys. So the next thing I'm going to get into is another newer question, and that was, how do you really, like, you know, capitalize on the lower volume market? So now this person asked this in regard to flipping, and to be honest with you, this sounds a lot more like an investing question, because, you know, you're not really going to be capitalizing on a market in flipping. You're really not going to be doing that. But I can take this and you know, and this might be what he meant with that question. It just really wasn't. I should have maybe asked for more information, but he might have been meaning this, and that is how can you make like a big flip based on something being a low volume item. So let's go in here. Let's go in here and let's look at this. So this right here is going to be a third age top. So if we have a, actually, you know what? Hang on one second. Let me do something else. Something I know is not going to buy when I don't screw myself over here. Let's see, third age rope top. So third age rope top. So we have a third age rope top right here. Let's say we go in here and we're going to buy this for like 80 million. I'm going to put in there for like 85. By the way, guys, whenever you go, and here's like a little pro tip for you for flipping. Whenever you go in there to buy something, you always want to like not make it a flat number. The reason why you don't want to make a flat number is because there's a whole bunch of like people that are not very good at flipping that are going to put flat numbers in there. You're going to have some guy that's going to go in here and he's going to offer 80 million gold. Boom. Well, you can automatically beat all of those people by going here and doing 80, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 5. So you basically add 5 onto it, or 3 onto it, or 11 onto it, or whatever. You can add whatever number you want to, but I do suggest you guys do not just do a flat number. Also, jacking your price up like this. Now, don't take this to the extreme. Don't be like 80. Blah, 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 blah. Don't do this. Okay, well that's too many numbers, but you get the idea. Don't be like 80 million for because now you're spending 400,000 gold more than you needed to, and that's also not benefiting you. Same thing with sales, by the way. If you're going to sell this item for 80 million, take off a little bit, because now you're going to be selling. Now you're just basically going to increase your chances of selling, increase your chances by buying by only by doing like a small variation of only a little bit of GP. So now let's see right here that we're going to be buying this item. So I'm going to go put this offer in right here. That'd be so awesome if I would have bought, because I'm like, hell yeah, 30 age rope top for 80 million. So this right here is going to answer a couple different questions. So the first question is the question I just talked about, and that was this person's main question. This person's main question was how to really capitalize on the low volume markets. So third age is extremely low margin. So we know that there's probably only a few third age rope tops at each wall. So now what a wall is basically, and I'm not going to get too in depth in this, but basically what a wall is different prices. So say you have 80 million, then you have 2 more being sold at 82 million. You got 6 more being sold at 85 million. You got 8 more being sold at 87 million, stuff like that. So those are all like all those prices are called walls, and a wall is created by multiple people selling them at one price, or one person selling a bunch of them at one price, and then essentially you have to keep you have to buy out all of those in order to go to a higher price. What you want to do in here in the example of trying to make a bunch of money from this is that you basically just want to capitalize on the fact that there's very few other ones available. So if I was to buy this third age rope top for 80 million, and then I try to sell it for 140 million, like something absolutely ridiculous. Now, if this item was a very high volume item, then your chances, I mean, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The reason why it's not going to happen is because there's way too many other sellers that are going to be selling in between your margin, and you're just never going to make that sale. But on an item where there is hardly any of them in the game being sold, like this third age rope top, you have a much higher chance of being able to make a gigantic margin, because if people all of a sudden are buying them, like let's say for example that I buy this third age rope top for 80 million, and then I'm like, all right, man, I'm going to try to make a 20 million flip on this. So I'm going to put in there for 100 million to sell it. Now, if let's say there is 10 other people that are trying to sell it for 85 million. Okay, so 85 million. And that's it. That's it. So your price is way higher than everybody else's, like completely not even realistic price. But everybody else has it for 85 million. 10 people do. So what you can do to that at your advantage with low volume is this. If 11 people come in the Grand Exchange and are like, all right, I'm ready to buy this third age rope top, and then 10 of them buy them, and they get their buys at 85 million. Well, number 11, right? Number 11, he wants a third age rope top, right? Too. He wants one too. And then when he goes in here and he offers, he's going to be buying yours. And the reason why he's going to buy yours is because now there's nobody else. You originally were the way too high priced person at 100 million when everybody else is 85. But now that the other 10 of them are gone, you are number 11, and you are now somehow the lowest price. So that means that person is going to be buying your third age rope top, which is pretty awesome. Okay, so You can definitely use that to your advantage. You're really going to have to do some more experience with low volume in order to really get into that. That works mostly in like the rares market or the like the treasure trails market, like this kind of stuff. It also works with dyes. It also works with like Telos orbs. It can also work with tier 92 weapons because they're so high priced that the prices tend to range quite a bit. So there's lots of different items that works with, but I will tell you that typically works with the larger price items. It does work with some smaller price items, kind of like how I explained in one of my recent YouTube videos about the Onyx bolts and Onyx bolt like tips and all that kind of stuff. That stuff used to be much lower volume, so I was able to make really good margins that added up to a lot of money, even though it was only like a small amount per bolt. I was able to buy and sell 10,000 of them at a time. So there are definitely ways to capitalize on that. All right, so the next thing, guys, is I'm going to be getting into is the trying to find buys and sell prices on items that have a low buy limit. So that's a very common question too. Let's go into Bandos. So Bandos is something that commonly ends up on the Flipmaster lists. Let's say that you have on the list, you're like, all right, so that's the suggested price. So let's say on the list, yeah, I'll make up an example here. So let's say I sent out a list that says that buy the Bandos chestplate, you buy them at 3.2 million, and then you sell them at 3.5 million. And then you look on here, and this is what you see. Now, if the list that I just sent you is like very recent, like let's say you just got the list and you're like, okay, fresh list, then you can totally just go by the prices that I gave you on there. As far as like the items like this that are like a low buy limit, you can totally just go by the prices I gave you. Now, let's say that it's not very recent, and let's say that list came out like 7 hours ago, and you're like, oh man, I was at work and now I just got back home and now the buy list is there, and well, I definitely want to flip these, but now the prices could be way off. So how can you kind of like work around the situation? So what I would suggest you do is something like this. So if I said the buy price is 3.2 and the sell price is 3.5, what you're going to want to take out of that information is you're going to want to take out of the information that previous during the day it was above mid, and then you also want to take out of that the margin on that was 300,000 gold. So keep those two things in mind, and then we're going to start working on this item. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to start somewhere low. So let's say we're going to start here, right there. So let's go ahead and start. Oops, that is way too much. 2901. There we go. Okay, so we're going to start lower than our mid price. We know earlier that it was above mid, but things happen and things can definitely go down a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and like try to buy this item, at a lower price, because we want to be careful, because we want to be sure that we don't accidentally like instant buy it and possibly lose any money or anything like that. So what we'll do is we'll put the buy offer in there like that. What we're going to do is we're going to wait, and we're going to wait for maybe 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. It really depends on how long you want to wait. Most of the time, an item like this for like a God Wars dungeon item can take anywhere from like 5 to 30 minutes to buy. So it kind of falls in between the high and the low volume items. So let's say that you waited 30 minutes and then this Bandos chestplate does not buy. If you waited for 30 minutes, the Bandos chestplate does not buy. You go in here, and then you're going to find Bandos chestplate, and you're going to be like, all right, let's do 2951. Let's increase it by 50,000, and then you're going to wait again for another 30 minutes. Now, that's basically how you do it. You essentially just creep up. You creep up until you finally get a buy. When you get your buy, at the time that you get your buy, so let's say they do buy for 29.51. So when they buy for 29.51, we have to remember that our previous margin that we found that I told you to keep in mind was the 300,000 margin. So once again, you're going to try to go for the 300,000 margin. So the very first price that you try to go for, if you found one at if you bought your Bandos chestplate at 29.51, then that means you're basically just going to be adding so 29.51.000. You're just going to add your 300,000 that you're hoping to earn onto that price, and you get 32.51, which means that when you go and put it for sale, you're going to be like 32.50. And probably honestly just go like 32.50. You won't go like a little bit. Just make the number look up like an actual sale price. Don't be like 32.50.999. That doesn't make any sense. Go below that. So right there you have it going for 32.49, and you throw it in there for sale, and then you just repeat your process as you slowly reduce it. So You'll put that in for sale. You might wait for like 30 or 40 minutes because you want to have a good chance of that. If you don't make a sale, then you're going to reduce it by another 50,000 and then just repeat the process. It does take a little bit more time, but the thing is, though, guys, is here's something that I'd like to get into, and I'm actually going to get into it in just a second. Toward the end of this video, guys, I'm going to be talking about efficient way. Actually, you know what? I'm actually not going to. In the next Flip Mastery video, I'm going to go ahead and plan this one out because this video is already super long, and I just want to answer you guys' questions in this one. In the next video, I'm going to talk about things that you can do while doing Flip Mastery in order to make it, a lot better. But what I'll go ahead and say in the short term is this. When I say you have to wait, for like 10 to 30 minutes, I don't suggest you sit here and stare at the Grand Exchange. Like it does not benefit you to sit here and stare at these slots. What you want to do is you want to exit out of the Grand Exchange and you want to go do something in the game. So that could be doing a farm run, that can be doing like a money-making method, that can be doing a Slayer task, that can be doing a quick quest, it can be doing anything. And then you come back to the Grand Exchange after your 30 minutes or whatever you did something else, and then you've got your slots here to check. That is a great way to do it. And I would highly suggest you don't just like stand there and just try to flip and that's it. The glory of flipping and the whole reason why flipping is so good is not because you're making money in the Grand Exchange, it's because you're making money without having to sit here and grind for it. But if you're sitting here and staring at the Grand Exchange the entire time, that completely takes away that entire purpose, and then does not really make it so beneficial because now you're actually working for that money because you're actually sitting here staring at it. Something else with that too is that I actually kind of lost my train of thought there. Yep, because I was just thinking about all the different things you could be doing while you were doing that. Oh, that's right. Sorry about that. So the other thing I was going to suggest is this: if you have an alternate account, then you can put the Runescape companion app on your alternate account. So that way, essentially, what you could be doing actually is you could be like set up all your stuff here on your alternate account, and then log out of your alternate account, log back into your main account, and then go do skilling and stuff, and then use your Runescape companion app on your phone. If you're doing a Runescape companion app on your phone, then you can check and see when stuff buys and sells. All you gotta do is log back into your alt and then update your prices, or take out your items or whatever. Another thing you can do too is you can also just have an alt that's logged in. If you just have an alt account, you can literally just let that alt sit at the Grand Exchange the entire time while your main account never stops skilling. That makes it highly beneficial for somebody who wants to like really make a lot of progress on their main account and get a whole lot of EXP while still being able to manage to be able to flip 24/7. When I very first started this account, that's actually how I got to my first 1 billion gold. Was I used the companion app for the first 30 days and then just like grinded flips the entire time while also grinding a whole lot of skilling. So all right, one last thing I want to cover here, and that is another very common question. For the people that have the bigger banks in the Flip Mastery, there are a lot of different options for you guys to be able to make a lot of money on bigger items that don't necessarily always go on the list. Like they hardly ever go on the list. And the reason why they hardly ever go on the list is because they're so high up there that not most people in Patreon can't do it. But if we go in here and we look at something like a die, so we got a Barrows die right here, guys. So Barrows die is 219,205. So if you were to try to be like, all right, I think I want to try flipping a Barrows die. So what you do is you go in here and you want to start pretty low. So let's say you started right there at, let's see, 160 million. There we go. Okay, so let's say that you have your offer in starting out at 160. Now, typically what I will do, is I will go to the forums first and I will find out and see what people are saying about Barrows dies. Like if I was thinking about flipping a Barrows die, I want to go see what people are talking about Barrows dies. If you see people saying selling Barrows die 205 million or something like that, and then you go in here and you see 219, what that means, guys, is that that person is selling for 205. They're selling it for more than what they would probably sell it for in the Grand Exchange, or they're selling it for how much it actually goes for in the Grand Exchange. It's one of those two things. Most likely that person is actually trying to get more than what they can get for in the Grand Exchange, which means that you know now that Barrows die is much lower than mid. Now, if you go back on the forums and you see something like Barrows dies, buying Barrows dies for 190 million each. If someone is buying them for 190 million, then there's a really good chance they're actually paying less than what they are in the Grand Exchange. So that means that your offer could start at 190 million. If you see a guy buying them for 190 million, then they're probably going for at least that or higher in the Grand Exchange. That saves you a lot of time as far as like trying to guess at what the price is. you can very often tell you know, what the price is by going that. Another great way to find out what the prices are on these items is now after you've gone through the forums, you're going to want to go on to the graphs. So go on to the graphs. Now the graphs, this is going to take some practice. I'm going to be just 100% honest with you guys. That this is going to take some practice. This is not an easy task to go on here and be able to interpret some of these items that have like a really wacky you know, path, and then also just are really high items that often are not at their price. So what we can see here is this. We can see 270, 257, 245, 233, 223, down to 214, then all of a sudden up to 219. So if I was going to flip this right now today, then I know that, you know, it's been dropping. It's been dropping. And by the way, this average price does not mean anything. Chances are the item is lower than this average price, and that's the reason why it's continuously dropping. At 223, it was actually probably 214 in the Grand Exchange. That's how these work, by the way. If anyone's confused about how these graphs work and like how the new price is determined, it's determined by the price the item was actually going for at the time. So if the die was 245 here, and then the next update brought it down to 233, then that means 233.5 whatever right there is probably how much it actually was at this point, even though the Grand Exchange said that. So we know that right there at 214, then that means the actual price was 219. Now, that kind of gives us an idea that it is actually likely to be somewhere around the Grand Exchange price. So it's likely to be somewhere right around the Grand Exchange price based on what we just saw. We also went onto the forums and we saw somebody selling it for 205. We saw somebody buying it for 190. That means that we have a good chance the item could be a margin of like 195 to 200. Given all that information right there, it could be 195, 200. Obviously, with kind of like what I just said, it's kind of contradicting everything because those are all just examples. But you want to look in those three places. Another great idea, by the way, too, before you get into flipping one of these things too, is you can also ask people in the chat. Ask people in chats that, like, say you're in your clan. In your clan, you can be like, hey, has anybody bought a Barrows die in a while? Hey, has anybody sold a Barrows die in a while? Hey, has anybody seen any prices of Barrows dies? And then oftentimes you can get some more information based on that. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to go in here and you're just going to basically start plugging away numbers until you get one. So you can start off at 190. Well, you start off based on, like, you know, you take all the information you just got, all the information I just told you, and then you can put in your first price. With an item this expensive, by the way, with it being like over 200 million gold, when you update your price, you're probably going to want to update your price by increments of like 200 to 300,000. So if 190 million doesn't buy, then you're probably going to want to do like 190 point, let's see, let's just start with like 200. So that means that you'd be doing 190,200,000 and then waiting and stuff like that. Now, the last thing I want to say on these items like this, guys, is that Barrows dies, third age, all that kind of stuff, they are elite flipper stuff only. Do not try these if you are like afraid of losing money. If you're going to be impatient at all or worried, then don't try them. You can make a lot of money with these and like third age and stuff like that. But at the same time, you can also lose a lot of money if you're, you know, just kind of like making mistakes. So I do encourage you to practice and try one or two or whatever, but I do say don't do it if you're afraid to lose money. Also, with something with these two is they require a massive amount of patience. I have bought and sold shadow dies before. So if we look into shadow die real quick, and this is going to be the last part of the video, by the way, guys. So if we look into shadow dies, and we see they're 800 million. I was buying and selling these when they were like a billion. And here's the deal. I was getting margins of like 20 to 50 million each. But the problem is, though, is, you know, it could take like an entire day or maybe a day and a half to buy, and then like another day or maybe 2 days to sell. So in comparison to our other items I was talking about being like, you know, 10 to 20 minutes to wait, 30 to 40 minutes to wait, you're going to be looking at days on these. And sometimes it won't take days. Like I've flipped like, let's say I flipped like a third age piece where, like a third age rope top, for example, where I bought it in like 5 minutes. And I was like, oh God, oh man, I overpaid. But when I threw in my sell price, I actually got a sale within like 2 hours and ended up making like I think it was like a 4 million profit on it, which is really nice. So sometimes you'll get this stuff quick, other times you're not. So you have to really not rush if you're going to be going into this. Well, all right, guys. That's it for this video. I really hope this helps to clear up a lot of people's questions on the flip mastery stuff. Please watch the other flip mastery videos that are available. They're all there to help you guys succeed with flip mastery. If you guys have any further questions, please reach out, and I'll be sure to address your questions. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful Patreon day. I'll see you guys soon.